strong hearts. Zug zug. Spring.
Hello, my beautiful friends. It is an amazing day, especially when you're unmuted. I hope your week is unfolding beautifully. Welcome back. We have a tremendous stream ahead here on Watching the Watchers Live. A bunch of news to get into today. Let's run through an outline on what's coming up, and then, of course, we're going to zoom in and get further detail. But as you may have seen from the title and from the thumbnail, guess who's back today? We've got Clavicle Girl is in the house. That's right, Cassidy Hutchinson, a story that we talked about a long time ago when Cassidy was front and center, also lovingly known here as Clavicle Girl because of her fake story about Trump allegedly grabbing somebody by the clavicle. Of course, that never happened. But now there's a new release that has just dropped from our friends at the Committee on House Administration. And they're telling us that Hutchinson's so-called story about authoring the January 6th tweet that came up during the fake committee hearings, well, turns out that an expert did some analysis on her handwriting, and the conclusion is it's probably not hers, as we all knew when we talked about this several years ago. And so remember this was that story that came out, and Cassidy said that she wrote this, which is obviously ridiculous because she is like a Spice Girl, and that would never match somebody who is, in that avatar of a human. So what we saw when this came out, we thought she didn't write that. She says, "Oh yeah, I did. I definitely wrote it. It was dictated to me by someone else." But lo and behold, we get the handwriting like this. Now that looks like some Cassidy handwriting, doesn't it? You know what I'm saying? Right there. So we're going through the story because they're now saying this is false testimony, and there was a handwriting expert who came out, and he actually released a report on this. So it looks like this that we'll read through and confirm that Liz Cheney orchestrated a big fat lie in front of all of us. And you can see this is a document examiner who's certified, the real kind, not like election certification like they do in Georgia. So we'll go through the story because Cassidy Hutchinson, she said differently. She said when she was there with Liz Cheney that she wrote this article. Turns out not true. Not true. Doesn't look like her handwriting at all. It's definitely someone else's, in my humble opinion. Now, we've got that. Then, speaking of Liz Cheney and fake stories, Liz Cheney also was colluding with her via text message while she had a lawyer. And we read through this when the story broke from another congressional committee. They said, wait a minute, Liz Cheney was deleting evidence before she left and turned it over to the Republicans who were coming in. And we know that she was texting and having phone calls with Cassidy Hutchinson. Cassidy Hutchinson had a lawyer who was advising her, and Cheney interfered with that. And there are ethical rules that lawyers are supposed to follow when they're not pieces of work. Of course, Liz Cheney is in the latter category. So we'll see. There is a bar complaint that has been filed against her, and it's on behalf of Stefan Passatino, okay, which is the guy who had his client stolen from him by Liz Cheney. Cassidy Hutchinson, he was representing her. And then Liz said, why don't you come over here, I'll give you a better thing, we'll write a book for you, and we'll give you free lawyers, and we'll put you on the Spice Girls rotation with Alyssa Farah, and the other one that no one can remember, and we'll send you guys on tour. And then Pete Gretsch Rona will join them, and the list goes on and on. So then Cheney's out there interfering with all of it, and now Stefan says, you stole my client. Totally unethical. Files a bar complaint against Liz Cheney. It's fun. It's a 10-pager. We'll go through it. It's going to the Office of Disciplinary Counsel in the District of Columbia. Man. So I'm sure they're going to just get right on this because they're going to bring some oversight to Liz Cheney. Might as well have sent this to Fulton County. All right. Anyways, we'll go through it. Fun story. We appreciate our friends at America First Legal doing awesome work, and we'll go through that story. Now, even Jon Stewart is upset with Liz Cheney. And we made this point here. I think it may have been on a Membo's stream, but we were explaining, like, I remember, man, when I was in high school, Bush was in charge, the elections of 2000, 2004, and they hated Dick Cheney. I mean, as much as they hated Bush, they hated Dick Cheney. So now to be like the Democrats, like Team Cheney, it's wild. And it was just kind of a surreal experience. even Jon Stewart's like, what's happening? What happened to you guys? And so we'll see what he said about all of that, because they are getting nervous. The polls are not looking good for Kamala. Things are rough out there, and even Jonathan Martin over at Politico is saying the clock is ticking on Kamala Harris. She tried to drag out Liz Cheney, pretending like Liz Cheney is like an RFK Jr. or something. Not even close, okay? RFK Jr. is a respected individual. Liz Cheney is a partisan hack who's just doing the bidding of her daddy warmonger. So here, we'll see Jonathan Martin is obliterating what is happening here from Kamala, and the campaign seems like it is flailing and floundering afoot. Then we'll turn our attention over to Georgia, because this is an interesting story that is still in the early phases. I haven't seen any corroboration of this or really any response to this, but seems credible, seems exactly like something that would happen, especially in Georgia. But this is being reported from our friend Kylie Jane Kramer. She was, or is, the executive director, Women for America First, Women for America First, official host of the Save America rally on J6 at the White House Ellipse, former producer for Hannity, and she is reporting this. She got these text messages and these emails, but apparently the reporting is that Brad Raffensperger is working to raise funds, or may even be a part of these funds, from this organization called Election Defense Fund Incorporated. And this Election Defense Fund Incorporated, apparently there's a text from Brad saying, we got to raise like $5 million before November 1st in order to stop the Trump election interference, or whatever they're so freaked out about over there. But this is being reported from her. Now, simultaneously, this guy, Josh McCoon, is reporting this. He says he's the chairman of the Georgia Republican Party. So he issued a statement in response to this, saying that Raffensperger should address this. Raffensperger has not addressed this as of this recording. We were keeping an eye on it to see if he would be responding to this, or if he's just posting statements about their ballots that are being collected, but nothing from him. And she has not heard a response from him either. Now, this is the organization. We'll also see where they were registered. And then we'll look at Raffensperger's executive director, Women for America First, Women for America First, official host of the Save America rally on J6 at the White House Ellipse, former producer for Hannity. And she is reporting this. She got these text messages and these emails, but apparently the reporting is that Brad Raffensperger is working to raise funds, or maybe even be a part of these funds, from this organization called Election Defense Fund Incorporated. And this Election Defense Fund Incorporated, apparently there's a text from Brad saying, we got to raise like $5 million before November 1st in order to stop the Trump election interference, or whatever they're so freaked out about over there. But this is being reported from her. Now, simultaneously, this guy, Josh McCoon, is reporting this. He says he's the chairman of the Georgia Republican Party. So he issued a statement in response to this, saying that Raffensperger should address this. Raffensperger has not addressed this as of this recording. We were keeping an eye on it to see if he would be responding to this, or if he is just posting statements about their ballots that are being collected, but nothing from him. And she has not heard a response from him either. Now, this is the organization. We'll also see where they were registered. And then we'll look at Raffensperger's background, because look at this right here. He's on a board, right? He's a member of some other organization as advisory council, a member here. And guess who else is on this board? Adam Kinzinger. This is the organization called Power the Polls. And so Kinzinger and Raffensperger are right there together. The real insurrectionists are on a board together. So my point is, it matches, the pattern. There's a pattern here that is developing. And so we've got a bunch of stuff to get to today. We got Clavicle Girl, we got Liz Cheney with the bar complaint, we got Raffensperger and his unlawful group, and a bunch of stuff to get to. Of course, we'll get into your comments and your super chats. Thank you for those at the end of the show. And then we'll have our after party with our membos over on Locals. But before we get into any of that stuff, you know what we got to talk about today? Testosterone, baby. A lot of guys think that their testosterone is being drained by aging or bad genetics, maybe even a lack of exercise. But what if it is the food? And what if it's food that you've been told is healthy food? Well, what if this one on food has been scientifically shown to devastate testosterone levels. And what if you have no idea about it? You know, it's not junk food. You might think, oh, it's that, or it's sugar. We got that. But just eating this a few times a week can wreck your testosterone, drain your energy, crush your motivation. But there's good news. Cutting this out could completely transform the way you feel. And our friends at V-Shred have seen firsthand how their clients, when they stopped eating this stuff, they started building muscle, burning fat, feeling more energized than they have in years. It's amazing how quickly things can change when you change your diet. So check it out. The V-Shred team, the team behind this cutting-edge nutrition strategy, has created a video that's going to show you exactly what this testosterone-killing food is and how you can get rid of it from your diet. So check out the video. The link is in the description below, sculptnation.com/Robert. Watch the video. They'll break it all down. It's a good one, and I think there's good advice in there. So check it out. V-Shred over in the link, sculptnation.com/Robert. And get rid of that garbage food from your diets. It's good stuff. All right, so let's get to it, my friends. We've got business to attend to, and we're starting the day off with Clavicle Girl from the House Oversight Committee. Clavicle Girl is back. Cassidy Hutchinson testified when she was having her powwow with Liz Cheney during the January 6th fake committee hearings. She said that she was the author, that Clavicle Girl herself wrote this document as part of the official happenings back on the day of January 6th. And we remember the testimony from her. We'll replay it here in a second. But a handwriting expert has confirmed that that story may not be accurate because her handwriting looks like this. We've got the full report that we'll go through. But remember this testimony, because this was part of what the media said was shocking. And oh my gosh, she was a first-hand witness. She was there. She saw all these things. And remember that Cassidy, and before she actually testified, and this is Cassidy, remember she came out in her white jacket and the media, oh my gosh, they called a special emergency hearing and they freaked everybody out. She's going to have some shocking testimony. Turns out, in our opinion, she just got up there and lied, made up a bunch of stuff. She was represented by a Trump lawyer. Then Liz Cheney stole her from the defense lawyer, right? Let me not say a Trump lawyer, but somebody who was defensive of that position as opposed in opposition to the lawless January 6th Select Committee, which wasn't even legally constituted under their own rules. HR 503 confirmed that. We can look that up, as we have about 1,000 times here. So all that being said, she's here testifying, and let's refresh our recollections on how this went down.
Ms. Hutchinson, could you look at the exhibit that we're showing on the screen now? Have you seen this note before?
That's a note that I wrote at the direction of the Chief of Staff on January 6th.
You wrote it?
Likely around 3 o'clock.
And it's written on a Chief of Staff note card, but that's your handwriting, Ms. Hutchinson?
That's my handwriting.
Really?
And why did you write this note?
The Chief of Staff was in a meeting with Eric Hirschman and potentially Mr. Philbin, and they had rushed out of the office fairly quickly. Mark had handed me the note card with one of his pens and started dictating a statement for the president to potentially put out.
And, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. There are 2 phrases on there, one illegal and then one without proper authority. The illegal phrase was the one that Mr. Meadows had dictated to me. Mr. Hirschman had chimed in and said, also put without legal authority. There should have been a slash between the 2 phrases. It was an or if the president had opted to put one of those statements out. Evidently he didn't. Later that afternoon, Mark came back from the Oval Dining Room and put the palm card on my desk with illegally crossed out, but said we didn't need to take further action on that statement.
Okay, so sounds like that whole story is just made up. That she didn't write that at all. And that Eric Hirschman, the lawyer who she referenced in there, is the guy who actually wrote it. All right, so if she's lying about stuff like that, then you just go, okay, she's just a liar, right? Her entire testimony is lacking in any credibility because she lied. So we go through that. We know that's what she said, and that was apparently the truth at the time, but now answer is no, that she didn't write it, according to this expert. Says, Committee on the House Administration, Chairman Brian Steele, he released this along with Harry Loudermilk, the oversight chairman. They've released new evidence, they say. that indicates that Cassidy Hutchinson, who we just heard from, knowingly provided false testimony, lied, to the Select Committee on January 6th regarding the origins of the handwritten note that was given to Trump on J6. Says, as first reported by Will with ABC News, the handwritten note was the draft for a proposed tweet for President Trump to send, advising rioters to leave the Capitol. He says, text read, anyone who entered the Capitol illegally without proper authority should leave immediately, with the word illegally scratched out. There's a higher res photo of the card. And if you, without even knowing the story, if you just had to guess, who wrote this? Man or woman? Male or female? What would you guess? 9 times out of 10. Male, obviously. Because my handwriting kind of looks like that. Now, during her public hearing on June 28th, Hutchinson testified under oath that she personally wrote this note as the president's chief of staff, right? I wrote it, she said. Mark Meadows and Eric Hirschman, one of the president's attorneys, dictated it to her. Her public testimony to this event was consistent with her first transcribed interview with the Select Committee on February 23rd, 2022. However, immediately after her public testimony about the note, the other guy, Eric Hirschman, immediately refuted her testimony and has maintained for years that he's the one who actually wrote the note. And Eric Hirschman is no friend of Trump in our interpretation of his post-J6 availability to Liz. Now, during their investigation, the Select Committee never contacted Hirschman, right? Here's where it gets even worse, to confirm the authorship of the note or to ensure the accuracy of their meticulously sourced final report. They needed Cassidy, right? And the reason this is important, you might say, well, who cares who wrote the note or whatever, you know, this guy or this guy. They needed Cassidy to be there, to be a first-hand witness, to be in the middle of it all. Wait a minute, Mark Meadows was telling you to do this and you were doing this, and so, like, they had to make her a lot more important than she actually was. She wasn't important at all. Then she's in the beast with Trump, or here's somebody from Tony Ornato who was in the beast with Trump, so it's hearsay, but they allow her to talk about it anyways. Tony Ornato refuses it, but she said that Trump reached over, grabbed some guy by the clavicle before Melania jumped out of the helicopter. Remember that? And everybody goes, what? Nobody's confirmed that at all. So then Liz is having to build her into a witness, right? Building a witness up. Nobody knows who she is, so now we put her in the middle of all this, and suddenly she's got credibility. And the media bought it, by the way. And you didn't have to sell them hard either. Okay, they were just going to buy it, basically whatever you gave to them. It was a crap sandwich, like perfect. They got one. It was Cassidy Hutchinson. We were mocking the whole thing back when it happened. Now, as the Select Committee consistently did with all of her testimonies, they accepted and they promoted her claim without any corroboration at all, because it was fake, or seeking evidence to substantiate anything she said. Now, to resolve the controversy over who actually penned the note, the Select Committee claimed to have reviewed Hutchinson's handwriting. So Cheney says, well, let's just compare it, just bring me both samples, and determined her handwriting was consistent with the script of the note, right? So this is an excerpt from the J6 report. In the report, they say, 2 witnesses recall writing this note, Cassidy Hutchinson and Eric Hirschman, although Hutchinson recalls that Hirschman was responsible for the revision made to the note. The committee's review of Cassidy Clavicle Girl Hutchinson's handwriting was consistent with the script of the note. Now, Select Committee to investigate the J6 attack transcribed the interview, and they say who wrote the note is not material to the committee. The important point is that it was prepared for the president. Okay, well, why did you introduce it through Cassidy Hutchinson then? Why didn't you bring in Eric Hirschman? Why was it part of her testimony? Well, it's because they needed other things for Cassidy to make her a credible person. And they had nothing, so they made it up. So here is another, looks like, handwritten note from Cassidy. Now, as we tried earlier, if you just forget everything about this case, everything, if I just showed this to you in front of a blank slate and said, what is the gender of the author of this note, what would you say? Obviously female. It's bubbly. It's hearty. There's a peace sign and then a little heart and smiley in there. It's kind of fun and, you know, a little goofy and carefree, and, you know, it's handwriting. You can see it's like, okay, that's clearly a woman who wrote that. Or maybe a teenage girl, I don't know. I don't even know if, you know, I'd say it's closer to a teenage girl. So now once we define this as a woman, now what age bracket are we in? I don't know, 14 probably? All right, so perfect for her, Spice Girl handwriting. So anyone, and with all due respect to all the females out there that have handwriting that looks like this, anyways, anyone who entered the Capitol without proper authority, that's a dude, okay? That's not Cassidy. It's not the same. Not even close. Sorry, no, doesn't match, no. So to resolve the claims, the Oversight Committee went and they got an expert, an independent certified handwriting analyst, which I can't wait to read it because it's like, I can just see the handwriting expert back there, you know, like with test tubes and like beakers, concocting everything. It's like, are you joking? Look, it's right here. What do you need an expert? No, it's not the same. That'll be $1,000. Thanks for coming over here. But anyways, you got to do it. All right, so we have to do it. The Oversight Subcommittee also got several samples of Mr. Hirschman's handwriting, which were used by the forensic document examiners to determine if the note was written by him. So now the question is, did he write the note? After a thorough analysis, their certified handwriting analyst stated in the report, quote, "The evidence supports my opinion that the handwriting that appears on the questioned document was written in the same hand as the exemplars." Dun, dun, dun. Eric Hirschman wrote it, not Cassidy Hutchinson. Busted. Now, Hutchinson, as we know, testified under oath at her hearing. She said, "I wrote that note," echoing the testimony that she said during her first transcribed interview. Right now, she was also kind of bought in on this too. So now it's a sunk cost, right? She's already said that. She testified that Mark Meadows dictated to her illegally, and then Eric Hirschman, one of the president's attorneys, dictated without proper authority, and then Hutchinson just wrote both those down. Now, then she wrote a book about it, and a bunch of liberals on MSNBC bought it. They're like, wow, she's so brave and heroic. And so they bought her book. She says, enough. Wow. She's so inspirational. And she continued to assert that she wrote the proposed tweet for President Trump in her own book, and her apparently wrote out all block lettering writing, claiming that Chief of Staff Mark Meadows shoved a blank note card and pen in her hand violently as the insurrection was happening, and then smashed her forehead into that test. Right